Hi, my name is Abba Makama, and we're at Lights Camera Africa Film Festival, and we're at the premiere of The Lost Okoroshi. Okoroshi is a film about a man who is transformed into a traditional Okoroshi masquerade and starts a spiritual journey in Lagos.
Congrats, Abba.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This will be very quick. I have just one question for Abba. So, you did a film in Lagos, right? You showed us Akpokbon, you showed us Marina, showed us Lagos Island, showed us Lekki, and you could not show the Lekki Link Bridge. What's wrong with you?
That's a beautiful question. I belong to a collective called Surreal 16, which consists of myself, CJ Obasi, and Mike Omonua, who is actually my director of photography. Surreal 16 started out as just 3 filmmakers who wanted to do something different. I saw CJ's trailer for Ojuju, and I was like, wow, who is this guy? And I just messaged him on Facebook, and he saw my work. And same thing with Mike, and we just started hanging out, and one day we just said, let's form a collective. And we were thinking of a name. It was 2016, and yeah, we just came up with Surreal 16 because it kind of just encompasses, it sounded cool, to be honest. There's no deep meaning behind the name, but I think surrealism kind of connotes that it's this out-of-worldliness, so it gives us room to do whatever we have. But back to your question, we also did like a tongue-in-cheek 16-point agenda or sort of code for Surreal 16, and one of the rules is no shot of Lekki Bridge, no wedding films, what else again? No generic-looking witch doctors, no Yankee accents, pretty much. That's Surreal 16.
So, what they didn't say is that Surreal 16 are the people who are said that they will destroy the box office blockbusters, right? You guys are doing films that don't pander to any taste, right? No no affluence, no popping champagne and stuff. You're telling stories that are Nigerian, original, and distinctly yours.
Yeah, I mean, we don't mind telling the champagne stories, but if I was going to tell a champagne story, I would just, I wouldn't be focusing on the glitz and glamour. Like just last night, I ride my bicycle at odd hours, 12 a.m. at night. Those who see my IG stories know that. Yeah, I ride my bike at late hours. So I was riding.
Who's filming you at 1 a.m.?
Nobody. Anyways, I was riding my bike yesterday, and it was around 10, and there were two wealthy men. You could tell they were wealthy, and they had mopo behind them, and they were exercising, and they both had torchlights because it was extremely dark. And I just said, this is fucking ridiculous. But that's Nigeria for you, man. No matter how wealthy you are, you can't escape the reality of the country. And this is why I always, I just can't, it's just hard for me to close my eye and focus on flashy stuff, you know. I enjoy champagne too, but...
So I was going to ask you, where does your humor come from? But you've just answered that question because you look at the Nigerian situation and you see the absurdities and the irony that is inherent in what we do. Yeah. So, your film, I mean, it's gotten rave reviews in Variety, IndieWire, Hollywood Reporter. So, and then you went to TIFF and just came back. So I'm wondering, right, when I read the reviews, I had a different idea. When I saw the movie, I can see why people can compare it to Kafka's Metamorphosis, right? Yes. Because this is a guy who wakes up and then a civil servant wakes up and he's turned into an insect.
Cockroach, right?
Yeah. So your guy wakes up and he's turned into, a masquerade, who's kind of a fluffy insect, basically. Yes. So are you aware of Kafka? And was it part of your process in this whole film?
I mean, I've been aware of... I was aware of Kafka, but I never read Metamorphosis. And in fact, when we were doing the table read, Jamal came with his cousin who's like a book nerd, and she was like, this is so Kafkaesque. And I'm like, oh, yeah? And she said, oh, you should need to check out Metamorphosis. But I didn't even want to check it out. It was much later I now discovered that the plot is pretty much quite similar.
So your second feature film, Jamal was in the first.
Yes.
And then now you're bringing back here. Is this some kind of Tarantino and Samuel Jackson shit going on?
I mean, I work with people I find just like I can connect with, and Jamal is a very stubborn boy, but yeah.
So in Green, White, Green, right, you had the Future Talks. Remember those guys?
Yes.
And then I see Jagger here, I'm like, okay,
exactly.
That Future Talks. So I can see that connection between...
Exactly. Yeah. So they're Easter eggs, and like I'm creating this universe, so a few people like you will be able to notice things like that. So it's almost the Jagule 5 have now graduated to
this
armed robbery, and pretty much that's what it is.
That's why I'm here, and Ugoma is over there. I can get it there. Okay, so Willy Willy.
Yes.
Back in the 90s, there was a Willy Willy on TV.
Yes.
Are you aware of them,
of
right?
Course,
so
yes,
this is like a homage to...
Oh, yeah, that's... I saw Willy Willy is... I credit my co-writer, Africa Oko. He came up. Originally, the character was supposed to be Don E., who was that hustler in Green, White, Green, who is supposed to play. But Africa just said, oh, yeah, let's come up with this character called Willy Willy. And I said, oh, it would be nice if he's this little person who will play like the comic relief and whatnot. And yeah, turned out fantastic.
So everybody say, man, what is that? I'm an Igbo man. You're just fucking us up, like, what's wrong with you? What is that? You're messing up with iPod, man.
No, like everybody who knows me knows I'm an honorary Igbo person. Like it's not even, I'm not trolling or anything. I just like, ever since I grew up, my sister can attest. I went to a very predominantly Igbo school called say Morumba in Jos. Anybody from Jos knows Morumba? Yeah, so I went to Morumba, and I used to leave our house to go and hang out in Busa Abuji Apata, which is like predominantly Igbo people. That's why my first character in the lead, Ugoma, is like, and I'm just Nigerian as well. I want to be able to, we have masquerades from my mom's tribe, Tarok, Lantang, and I've always been obsessed with masquerades. We used to go to the village for Christmas, and there would be the masquerade festival, and I used to just obsess overnight what was going on. And when I grew up, I now realized it was just some guy in a costume, and that even just blew my mind further. But I decided to kind of culturally appropriate Igbo culture because it's more popular, it has a wider reach, and when we've broken down Nigeria to 3 major ethnic groups, I just felt it would be something globally people could identify with. Then also the name Okoroshi just sounded cool. It could pass for Japanese. It just sounded nice marketing-wise.
But that there's actually a people called Mbaitoli in Ikeduru in Imo State. They have a festival called Okorosha.
Oh, yes.
You're aware of that,
in fact, I read an article 2 years ago that an Okorosha was chasing a child. No, it's funny, but it turned out like the child ran into traffic and a car hit him. Yeah, so unfortunately, but I have heard of the festival.
Yeah. So now you have your masquerade who represents the traditional, and the antiquated, right?
Yes.
Then you have who did the soundtrack again? Say who?
Shehu is another Jos boy.
So Shehu is giving us sounds that are modern and contemporary, and this antiquated being is dancing to modern.
Exactly.
So you only have this in your films where you just like transpose things that shouldn't make sense, but they happen to just make us laugh.
Yeah.
So.
But I think in reality it's no different. You go to some obscure place in the north or whatever, some Fulani village, and you see a guy holding an iPod pad. It's almost, it's like sci-fi, almost like Afrofuturistic kind of, where you mesh this whole new digital era we're in with the antiquated, So it's not even that far-fetched. And I've seen masquerades doing shaku shaku. I've seen them going to bet to gamble, I've seen them, like, you've seen masquerades demystifying themselves, So if for anything, I'm trying to bring back that mystique and power in this entity.
One of my enduring images of your festivals, of your masquerade, who's going back home on Temelan Bridge and he's tired. So he removes his just walking. like the spirit has left him, you know.
Yeah.
So Green, White, Green was your first feature. This is your second one. Yes. And in a sense, right, they look the same. There's no, you're not trying to be crispy or over the top. You're just trying to like tell a story, right? How does this help you when it comes to the box office?
Well, I've never released a film here, but I've enjoyed both critical and commercial success outside their other forms of distribution.
Who critical success help?
Sorry?
Who help?
Sorry?
Critical success, who they help? Because you have to pay your bills and do the next film.
Yeah,
right?
yes. So yeah, like there are other forms of distribution. We licensed it exclusively to Netflix, and we put it on 3 international airlines: Air France, Emirates, Ethiopian Airlines. It's licensed it to Canal Plus, and it's traveled to. People don't know this, but festivals do pay screening fees. You know, you have to negotiate. So there's a constant revenue stream. You know, and it comes quarterly, comes annually. The thing is, once you can make a great box office film, and you make a ton of money in a month, but then that's it. You know, but you make a good film or a classic film, and then you make money from now till eternity. Seinfeld is still kicking. You know, Star Wars. It's that type of work I'm trying to create. I'm not trying to just hammer now and cut out.
All these people clapping want to hammer. So you're very invested in Nigeria, right? The first one was Green, White, which was clearly Nigerian film. And you said you wanted to make a film about nothing. And Nigeria is a Frankenstein monster. Exactly. Then we come back here again and we see another monster. Are you monstrous?
Well, my nickname is Dodoroski, and Dodoroski means monster, literally, in Hausa. It means masquerade. So, yeah, I guess...
Okay, so I was coming there, but now you just get out of... so you said, you gave us a quote attributed to that Taduriki
Dodoroski. Yeah,
I knew it was fake.
You knew it was fake?
I knew it was fake. So I was coming to that, but I didn't know you were going to...
Well, it's not fake. I'm the one now. Like, how is it fake?
Anyway, so... disillusion, despair, displacement, these are key themes in your movies, right?
Absolutely.
So my reading is that because you're not Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba, like somewhere in the mix, you know, you feel a part of Nigeria, but you're also not a part of the whole. So
absolutely.
Is that a good reading?
Fair enough, yes. Here I'm a northerner here, then back home. Really, what are we back home again? Like, I can't even, like, back home we're from Plateau State, so we don't really identify as Hausa, but we're from the north, yeah. So, but here I'm Hausa, everybody calls me Hausa, Aboki.
All right, so we're going to ask the audience if you have questions. Take a few, and then we can just call it a night.
Hello, everybody. I want to ask about the title. Does it have an extra meaning? When you say the Lost Okoroshi, does it have a deeper meaning to, I don't know, like a deeper meaning? Does it mean that the Okoroshi is not current, is not, the masquerade does not exist again, or is not really happening in our modern culture now?
I think you just answered it, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
How did you settle for the aspect ratio you choose in telling the narrative? Like the 4:3 aspect ratio, like was there a story significance to?
Oh, I like that question.
Why that was done?
Yeah, technical question. So 4:3, for people who don't know, is the aspect ratio. That's the frame, and like we wanted to shoot this film as an homage to like a 90s Nollywood film. So we were very minimalist with the framing. We shot in 4:3. Well, we framed in 4:3, but really we are shooting in 16:9. So it's literally an homage to VHS Nollywood type films. If you notice, the framing is just very straightforward, direct, and we put a little bit of filmic grain on it as well. And yeah, and I mean, with the subject matter as well, supernatural, then bringing somebody like Chiwetel Ejiofor, who comes from that era. So it's an homage to 90s Nollywood.
All right, so I don't know what aspect ratio means, but now I know what it is. But I knew the film was looking like NTA kind of film, so I wasn't sure. So now I know it's called aspect ratio. So thank you very much, yeah? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for making that movie, first off. That
Thank
was amazing. Absolutely loved it, even though I know my Yankee accent precludes me from being a member of Surreal 16.
No.
So my question is, I loved all the imagery. It was very clear what you were doing. So a lot of it came through, but I was very curious at the end why you decided to sort of use the exposition of the professor or the researcher. He seemed to sort of keep kind of coming in to tell me what I was seeing. So can you expound upon that?
Not really.
No? Okay.
I just ended it with him. Bolaji was an amazing actor. I thought the dialogue was amazing, and yeah, that's it pretty much, yeah.
But okay, so to go back to Green, White, Green, there was a professor too, who had a book, whose book was the basis for the film they're trying to make, right? So I think he just keeps shooting the same movie all the time with different time frames. And so we have a professor there, he's here too, and he's just talking bullshit here, basically, just talking bullshit. Really. So, any more questions?
Hi. So I really, really enjoyed that, as I expected to. It was fantastic. I heard a rumor that some of the footage with the masquerade was organic.
Yes.
So I really would like to know about that experience. Like, how many people did you approach just casually on the streets with this masquerade? What the reactions were? And if there's any telling, tribe-wise, about reactions. So did you have anyone who was just very that's fine, I'm not intimidated by this? Or did you have people that was everyone sort of just freaked out and spooked?
90% of people, everything you saw at the market was not staged. We literally just entered the market. In fact, they probably thought we were a cultural group with a masquerade.
Even the spraying of money.
Yes, everything. They probably we entered Balogu market in and out, which you go with camera, it's a war zone. But nobody, they saw the spirit and they were like, we're not going to fuck with this. An interesting thing that happened was the first day we went to the market, the moment the masquerade came, people gathered, and it was this amazing shot of just people just staring. It was all quiet before he started dancing, and we filmed. And when we got to the car park, Mike now said, Abba, I hit record, but there was no card.
Oh,
so we had to now go back. Which, to fairness to him, it was probably my fault, because the C300, even if you don't load the card, it shows it's recording. And my job every day is once I copy the cards, I put it back. So he felt I had done all that. So it wasn't his fault. It was really my fault. But anyways, we had to now go back and shoot it again. And it kind of lost that novelty, but we still got some amazing footage. And the Mopo we hired to come with us, they were even useless because nobody and those guys spraying at the first market, those are the area boys from that market, and they were like, we want to be part of this film, so they came in, it was all organic.
Okay, as an Igbo man, the money they sprayed, where is it?
I totally enjoyed the movie.
Thank you.
And I wondered, did you have to try to talk to the young men of masquerading age, since it's an age grade thing? And that is the first question. The second question is, I like how you were able to show national unity with the masks themselves.
In the spirit world?
Yes.
Yeah. So first question. So when I was doing the research for this, this film, it started with, if anybody who knows and has seen my work from way back, there's always a masquerade of some sort in the film, you know. But they're always usually generic masquerades I just come up with. So when I started doing my research and I stumbled across the title Okoroshi, to be honest, most of my research was online and watching documentaries. I didn't, and I took creative license. The Okoroshi does not look purple. I got that image from French photographer Charles Frigga, who I've been like a fan of for years, and I contacted him. And if you even look at the images, all the images at the end of the film are from Charles Frigga and Jean-Claude Moschetti, who go around documenting images of masquerades across the world. Charles Frigga did a photo series called The Wilder Man, which documents ancient pagan ceremonial costumes across Europe. And when I saw some of those costumes, they looked like what we have here, and it blew my mind. And being somebody who's a fan of Carl Gustav Jung and the concept of the collective unconscious, you know, it validates the idea that there's a realm where all these things come from. They just manifest themselves differently. And yes, with the spirit world, again, I just felt, you know, in the spirit world, there are no social constructs of yada, yada, yada.
That's the prof talking. So last question before we call it a night.
I am Sonia, and I mean, growing up, I've been fascinated by masquerades, but my parents would basically tell you, oh, a lady's not supposed to see a masquerade because so many things could happen. You could give birth to one, you could become infertile. But then in the movie, I realized that both genders, in fact, a woman in the market was spraying the masquerade money. So I wanted to find out, was that deliberate? Were you trying to break through anything?
Again, it's back to the title of the film, Lost Okoroshi. Like, all these ideas have been displaced, so nothing is really sacred anymore. And I find it quite interesting that even the female masquerades, like the Okoroshi Oma, they're still being played by it's still men that dress it. And it's almost kind of like transgender of the spirit world-ish. You know, I think that's very cool. So pretty much that's it.
Okay, so my last question for you, Abba, is this. What did Nollywood do to you?
Nollywood has, on the contrary, I think there's a narrative that people are trying to craft that I'm sort of anti-Nollywood. I'm not. If you think about it,
I'm crafting it.
I know you've been crafting it, but I'm not. I'm just, again, the same way back to the guy holding the torch and whatnot. I'm abused, you know, but it's funny, you know. There's a lot of stuff we don't do in the industry that's interesting, and I just like documenting that. And I'm also part of the industry as well. You know, my first film director is about a Nigerian filmmaker trying to shoot a film in one day. It's on YouTube, you can check it out. And I literally was just mocking myself. I said I took some of the things that had happened, me working in the industry, you know. It's just, my work is just absurd. That's why it's kind of hard to classify it within the scope of what I mean. At the end of the day, I want everyone to just win, you know, and it's not, Nollywood is not supposed to be, or the Nigerian film industry is not supposed to be monolithic. It's not supposed to look one way, you know. Yeah, I mean, you go to the United States, you know, you have Star Wars, you have Martin Scorsese, but then you also have you have the Coen brothers, you have a bunch of people doing even shooting with the same budget we're shooting here as well. There's always going to be like an array of different types of filmmakers everywhere in the world, and I don't know why we're bent on, boxes and gang shit.
And that is why Lights, Camera, Africa exists.
Absolutely.
To give you that alternative feel, we all can't be doing Lekki Link Bridge. We have to do other things that tell the authentic Nigerian story. Please give it up for Abba Makama.
Thank you.